It looked like a car graveyard out there at Talladega, and several NASCAR playoff racers were involved. Austin Cindric, Chase Briscoe, and a large number of other cars were involved. Logano was in there as well, and what happened next shocked him. Is Logano in for another controversy this season? The bottom line was loaded, and Brad Keselowski gave Austin Cindric too much of a boost. To be honest, it would be easier to identify the drivers who were not engaged in the accident. This will dramatically alter the NASCAR playoff picture heading to the Roval. Talladega just delivered a major one today. Austin Cindric was in charge. Then he started spinning out in front of the field. This will harm drivers such as Logano, Elliott, Bowman, and Briscoe. And those are only the playoff drivers who were involved in this event. For a driver like Ryan Blaney, this is a significant relief. If other playoff drivers DNF'd, his DNF seemed less severe in contrast. And that is what happened. When you race at Talladega, these accidents happen. There was a lot of spectacular racing at the superspeedway. Before you knew it, the cars were spinning around. The racetrack afterwards took on the look of a parking lot. This collision will have significant consequences for the NASCAR playoffs. The excitement increased as the race came to a close. When push came to shove, the num2 received both the push and the shove. The consequence was a field of smashed autos. When the smoke cleared, 28 cars were engaged in the event. There were just 12 cars on the track that were not involved in the accident. There were 12 really lucky drivers. When a car snaps up the track on the backstretch from the front, massive crashes happen. A big collision involving Ryan Blaney, Ross Chastain, and Joey Logano occurred toward the finish of Stage 2. So Logano was involved in 2 collisions before being declared a DNF. Talk about poor luck. He wasn't satisfied with what occurred next either. Following the collision, NASCAR sparked a great deal of criticism. Logano's num22 Ford suffered enough damage to prevent him from finishing the race's final 4 laps, but other drivers believed they had minor damage that could be fixed on pit road. That's where everything went wrong this weekend. The only difficulty was that they were trapped in the infield grass. Those who remained on the infield grass hung in there in the hopes of eventually being allowed to move since, according to the damaged vehicle policy, unless you have 4 flat tires, a tow back to pit road means your race is finished. The situation in Turn 3 at Talladega was chaotic and confusing, with members of NASCAR's safety crew working to clear the course. Logano blamed NASCAR for the confusion, labeling the situation in Turn 3 as comical and goofy. "I don't know yet," Logano said. "I didn't feel it go up, but I had some stuff broken too. So it's kind of hard to say if the lift system worked or not, but it's kind of comical. I get out of the car and I just see a bunch of cars that after a red flag we've been sitting there for 10 minutes. Everyone's just sitting there hoping they can roll a little bit. It's just goofy." Logano was not the only one perplexed by the entire situation. Josh Berry, one of the several drivers engaged in the crash, playfully mocked the policy's inconsistencies. "All I know is that all those cars parked in Turn 3 better not get towed to pit road, buddy, because that'd be breaking the damaged vehicle policy," Berry said. King 42 car is out there doing burnouts, slinging rubber all over the safety workers trying to get going. But if you have 4 flat tires and you get towed to pit road, you're done, right? You might think that, but things went a bit different. And just when we thought we knew the rules, NASCAR decided to bend and potentially breach them with Chase Briscoe and others. It was obvious from the start that the safety workers were outnumbered. Drivers who could continue to move did so. However, several of the low-profile next-gen cars were stopped in the grass, on pavement, and all over the circuit due to flat tires. Richard Boswell, crew chief for the number 14 squad, had some views about the damaged vehicle policy. He was determined that Briscoe stay in the car, regardless of what the safety personnel told him. "It needs work, but it's new, and I expect it to need work. I've already talked to Brian Goebel explaining the issue we had with the safety workers trying to lift our car, maybe not 100% getting it, and then not knowing how they got it. So there's definitely some work that needs to be done, but I don't expect it to be any different, right? It's a new system. It's an effort to make everything better for everybody with the next-gen car. When you've got such low ride heights and tires go flat, you end up on roadblocks. We probably gained 4 or 5 spots because we were able to get back to pit road. So from that standpoint, I'm happy about it." Once the smoke faded, bewilderment took its place. This crash was enormous, forcing NASCAR to make judgments. Did they make the correct decision? Chase Briscoe and his squad were in a terrible situation. They knew they'd finish the race with a significant point deficit. However, in the NASCAR playoffs, A single point might be the difference between moving on to the next round and not. Even the new air jack systems that some teams had installed did not operate. This car has flat tires, which means you won't be able to move. But at Watkins Glen in Kansas, we saw Ryan Blaney and Josh Berry given no chance to make repairs or change tires and were instead taken out of the race. For Chase Briscoe, Chase Elliott, and others, that was not the case today. Tow cars pushed and hauled cars to pit road, and NASCAR permitted repairs to be completed. So, what is the deal? NASCAR must be explicit about its regulations. Fans don't mind harsh verdicts and choices affecting teams and drivers. They are concerned when it is difficult to determine who should be punished, or who should be shown mercy. When competitors break the rules, viewers doubt the sport's authenticity, and this is exactly what Logano meant. He had to stay out of the race, whilst direct competitors for the final 8 were able to move on after sitting in their car for more than 10 minutes. How is that fate? And as you can imagine, NASCAR got a lot of backlash, so much that Elton Sawyer talked to media after the Talladega race regarding NASCAR's damaged vehicle policy, DVP. NASCAR's vice president of competition disclosed the one purpose the organization has when deciding whether a car may return to the track. "Our goal is never to put good cars out of the race," Sawyer said. "When we developed DVP 5 or 10 years ago, that's never been the goal. Based on our experiences last week at Kansas and looking at what happened there, with the 4 car, we felt like we probably could have made a different call there. We had a good car that probably just needed tires last week. As we went into this week, we wanted to err on the side of the competitor. Again, we don't want to put cars out of the race. We had a situation in turn 3 where we got 25 plus cars down. We're not sure why they can't continue. We don't know if it's strictly because they're just in the grass or high-sided. For us to make a determination that they got some suspension damage and can't continue, that puts a lot on us that we want to err on the side of the competitors. Once we got the 14 and 9 back to pit road, they made their small repairs that they can make on pit road and went out and met minimum speed. We felt like we made the right call there." Sawyer added, "As we've gone through Next Gen and DVP over the last 2 3/4 years now, I think the program has worked well. There's some efficiencies that has worked really well. Obviously, there's some things that we need to look at in the off-season, some learnings from this car and how we can implement the DVP policy going forward." The incident, now known as the Big One, occurred with fewer than 5 laps to go when Brad Keselowski collided with Austin Cindric, who was racing for the lead with eventual winner Ricky Stenhouse Jr. Cindric lost control, triggering a chain incident involving almost 20 cars, including 8 of the 12 playoff drivers. NASCAR's DVP was introduced in 2017 and gives teams 7 minutes to fix damage and maintain the minimum speed when the repairs are completed. But is it fair to wait so long before starting the timer on repairs? What do you think? And is this going to cost Logano dearly? Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below.